Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight um, on the New Year's, and hopefully this will give us a reset for everybody. Happy Rosh Hashanah to all those who practice. So who are we? So my name's Mei Song, and the Daphne Grantich is on the call with me. She's also a panelist. She's going to be helping me moderate today. And we're Team Palisade. We're both volunteers with Team Palisades. We're just neighbors, helping neighbors to try to get everybody home and sharing resources. And some of the examples that we have on the screen here, these are some of the events we have hosted already. And so I invite everybody to join the team and help connect with everybody. And some good news. This is a view of the alphabets this weekend I took from the hillside. There's a lot of building activities going on, so things are looking bright. So hopefully this will be a great new year for all of us. And some upcoming events, we have Charts and Chardonnay this Saturday. And then also we have the next series of the Resilient Homes and Community webinar. That's on October 6th. That's in 2 weeks. Hope you guys will all register for that. And after that, on October 5th, we have the longest table. This is, we're going to provide the tables and you just bring your friends, food, and cheers. There's going to be tables and chairs. It's going to be on Pampas Ricas in the Huntington Palisades. Now, today we have the honor of 4 great guests. Our speakers are actual survivors of previous fires and also activists in the fire prevention. We're going to start with Annie Barber. She was a Tubbs Fire survivor from Coffee Park in Santa Rosa. She was the board member of Coffee Strong, and she's worked for, and also since then she's worked for United Policyholder for the last 5 years. And then we'll followed by Paul Lowenthal. He has served 26 years in fire services. I include spending time both as a firefighter and a fire inspector. Paul is also a total loss survivor in a Tubbs fire, bringing not only professional expertise, but also deep personal understanding to his work. Then we have that following Paul, we'll have Bill Tyler, who started his fire service career in 1994. He joined the Novato Fire District as a firefighter paramedic and quickly shifted his focus to fire prevention, rising through the ranks as a fire inspector and eventually a fire marshal. He was instrumental in the creation of Fire Safe Marin post Oakland Hills fire. And then lastly, we have a Palasadian of our own, Tyler Hauptman, who is a mechanical engineer who lost his home in the Palisades fire. Despite his background in wildfire resilience, he witnessed firsthand how extreme fire behavior can overwhelm suppression efforts, and why communities collectively must be prepared to withstand wildfire on their own. Now, we're going to start with Andy. I'm going to stop sharing. Andy, if you want, do you need to share anything? Share screen?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm not doing a screen today.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, May, for the introduction. As May said, I am a 2017 Tubbs fire survivor from Santa Rosa, California. My home is in Coffee Park, where we lost roughly just over 1,400 homes on the wonderful night of, well, ours went in the morning of October 9th. We formed a group called Coffee Strong. At that point, the information that we received from our wonderful supervisor, James Gore, was get the questions answered that your neighbors have. And from that, we became a nonprofit. The learning curve was steep, as all of you are going through this. We had to learn a lot. In the process, as we progressed, we became a nonprofit. We did fundraisers. We beautified areas that were common areas that we did not have an HOA for. We did the wonderful Hopper Wall, which was a huge project that we received donations and in-kind donations for. All of those things were very challenging for us. So I just want to tell you that this is not something, as you all struggle, we struggled also. And what we really want is to pay it forward and to make sure that the things that we captured and the oversight that we learned, the failures that we had have all been passed forward to help you guys do the best you can. And then, at the end of the day, you guys will learn more things and pass it on to the next one, because unfortunately there will be next ones. Anybody is welcome to send me an email if you have questions that you're struggling with for insurance. That's Annie, ANNIE, at uphelp.org. One of the big things I really want to touch on today is building your homes back so that they're insurable. I know that there's a lot of different talk in your areas about what people find acceptable, what they don't find acceptable. And that we can put by the wayside, because at the end of the day, you will all need insurance. And the standards that the IBHS, Safer from Wildfires, have put together are really important for you guys to be able to protect your biggest assets. So I really implore you to look at those, to talk to your contractor before you start the build process. I've talked to a number of them to educate them, because really you don't want to have to remodify your home when you find out that you don't get your insurance extended or you get non-renewed. All of these things will protect your community. It will give firefighters a chance to get in front of these fires, which I think is imperative. I watched my neighborhood burn. I watched how quickly the fire went from house to house, whether it followed the fence lines like a wick right to the houses, embers. All of those components are very real. The IBHS has done all the studies to recognize that. So talk to your neighbors. Make sure you guys are all on the same page as much as possible, because as you rebuild and re-landscape, those things are going to become imperative. I mean, if you all do it together, or the majority of you, you have a much better chance of making it through the next one. And unfortunately, unless we really get a hold of these things and everybody's on these programs, we're going to have next ones. There's not a whole lot of chance that we're going to have a change in our climate. So I really can't impress enough upon you, talking to your neighbors about how you're rebuilding and what kind of vegetation you're putting around your home, but also form that network. The one great thing that came out of Coffee Strong was we have such a close community. We have a concert once a year in the park. We have a Christmas parade. I think we were up to 120 cars last time. You could stop at anybody's house. They all had fire pits out front. You could get a drink. You could get something to eat. You could stop and just say hi. We have the neighborhood that, we lost 5 people in our fire. And with the lack of time that we had, that wasn't, there's no room for losing people. Don't get me wrong, by any means. It's amazing we did not have more. But as you guys rebuild together, connect this community in a way that you never have before. If you drive through Coffee Park, you'll see that almost everybody has front porches. And that was a huge thing. We had to change the setbacks so that the homes that were built in the 90s and the late 80s had enough room for those porches. We want to see our neighbors and we want to protect our neighbors. If it hadn't been neighbor to neighbor that night, we would have had a lot more loss. I got out in about 2.5 minutes, and my neighbor got out in 4 minutes, and the back bumper of her car was melted. There was not time for any first responders to get in. So as you're rebuilding, make those connections. That is going to be, you guys will all be your own first responders. And the more you harden your home and harden your environment, the better chance you have. And now, so I don't run over time, I'd like to just share with you some of the oversight that we've put together from survivors after seeing what happened in Coffee Park, in Paradise, in all the following jurisdictions that had fires. And that is when you're hiring a contractor, please look at the California State Licensing Board. But that's not just all you do. When you're on there, make sure that they have workman's comp insurance. And then click on their history for their bond. If their bond has been taken mid-span, it should go 12 months to 12 months. They, in all likelihood, they went to mediation by not resolving something with a consumer that they should have. And they had to give their bond up for that. That's a huge red flag. We have people that built in our fires who have nothing on their California state license that shows that there was ever a problem. So Google their names, Google their business names, ask them if they ever had any other business names, because in most of these fires, there's reporters who will write stories about these companies that didn't do the right thing. You're interviewing, ask for 3 references. You're interviewing those people, not just, are you happy with your home? They're all happy because they're back home. They may not share the struggle. So, it's a full interview and they'll understand it. And, it starts out with, are you happy with your build? Absolutely. But did it come in on time? Did it come in at the right price? Did you have change orders? And this is all on our website. Was there good supervision for the subs? Did you get your lien releases? Was there, in our fire, we had builders, subs who would go from place to place, and they may work overtime most of the days doing it for someone else. And then they'd get together and some of them would have beers inside the houses they were building. Just know that this is your build and you need to be really careful in the hiring process and in the build process. Please make sure that you have your contract with your builder reviewed by a contract attorney. There should be in support of you, the builder. There should be a way out of that. We have to leave the legal stuff to the legal people. I couldn't learn everything fast enough, obviously, to make sure that we made it through this properly without any bumps. Escrow account is in your favor. If you have an escrow account, your builder can never get farther along than what his completion rate is. So it takes the survivor out of the picture, which is the best thing you can do, because if that builder comes to you and says that they are short of funds, as survivors, we just want to go home and we tend to write that check. This way, at 50%, your builder walks away or files bankruptcy, you still have 50% of your money to complete your build. And there will be builders who will do that. Not all builders are scammers by any means, but most do not know how to build with insurance money. Insurance money is 3 very slow drops of money. These people are all used to working with escrow accounts where they have milestones to meet and it's 5 to 7 drops. And so it's imperative that you understand that in the process, there is a way to protect yourself. And the builders simply don't know. They learn as they go. So if you're using a builder who's built in this environment before, that's even better. And last but not least, please hire a private inspector for your home. Generally, they'll come out for 3 inspections, one at foundation, one before close-in, and one at final. If your build starts going sideways, they don't want any part of that. They want to be there from day one, not for litigation. So it's your biggest investment. Please protect it. It's going to be up to you.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you so much for the first person account. Next, we have Paul. Paul's also for Santa Rosa. And I'll just have Paul introduce himself. Take it away, Paul.
Hi there. My name is Paul Lowenthal, Division Chief Fire Marshal with the Santa Rosa Fire Department. Um, as May said, here to offer some words and kind of some history on our lessons learned, the recovery that we had in Santa Rosa, and my involvement, and just kind of sharing some things from my perspective. Sorry, a total disclaimer. I'm actually in Maui, which we'll get to why I'm here right now. So I'm working through some technical challenges. Let's see. Sorry. Why am I not able to get this? There it is. All right. So, believe it or not, I'm actually a public information officer. Typically, I'm really good at speaking, so I apologize for the rough start. So what brought me here in front of you guys? Obviously, many of you are aware of the history of Santa Rosa with the Tubbs and Nuns fire of 2017, which, as Annie mentioned, destroyed a good portion of Coffee Park, roughly 1,400 homes, also Fountain Grove, as well as portions of the county, which led to about 6,000 structures from fire. And about 26 lives lost throughout the fires of Tubbs and Nuns. We were followed by the Kincaid fire in 2019, which caused the evacuation of about 100,000 residents from about 70% of our city when the fire threatened the community. Fortunately, it was stopped just prior to entering, and then unfortunately went through it again in 2020 with the glass fire. With that, I got kind of catapulted into a recovery type position. That recovery, those positions that I managed and held for the city of Santa Rosa, kind of allowed me to serve as kind of an aide for Maui County, which I'm currently in right now. This will be my 9th time out in Maui County, working on their recovery, both short and long term. I'm also originally from Pasadena. Went to middle school in Altadena, lived over by the Rose Bowl growing up. And so very connected to both the Eaton and Palisades through personal and connections with friends and family. So that's brought me down to Southern California, both originally through mutual aid, initially after the fires, as well as ongoing support through mutual aid through Cal OES, and then with After the Fire, which some of you are familiar with, I believe I've had 3 different trips down there with them and another one planned for November. I've also been able to help communities across the country, as well as across California with their post-wildfire and disaster recovery. So we've seen, obviously, unfortunately, these pictures time and time again with what Coffee Park looked like, what Palisades has looked like, what Eaton Fire has looked like, and others. There's a lot of similarities between these fires, whether it's or Maui, portions of Southern California, where it can mirror our wildland urban interface areas like Fountain Grove, or our non-wildland urban interface areas like Coffee Park. So what my involvement really became initially during the 2017 fire was served as a task force leader. And the task force that I was primarily assigned to during 2017, initially during recovery, was the debris task force. I was the closest thing that the city had to a health officer because I managed the Coupa program for the fire department. Because I knew what EPA stood for, it kind of was what made our city manager kind of tap me and say, okay, you're going to be in charge of this task force. But it also actually really worked, and not only my advantage, but the community's advantage, because I was truly advocating on behalf of the community as somebody that was actually going through a total loss, but also literally figuring out the plane as we were trying to not only fly it, but build it at the same time. This was unprecedented at the time. There had never been this level of destruction, and the rules and the programs were essentially created in Santa Rosa by a lot of unfortunate lessons learned. We had our various task forces similar to what you're familiar with, whether it's watershed, debris, housing, economic recovery, schools, and many more. But I was able to again talk not only as a leader, but as somebody that was going through it. And when the city or the state or the federal government would say we want to do X, Y, and Z, I would be able to not only advocate for the community, but advocate for the community on behalf of what my true experiences were. So I could tell them that, no, this isn't going to work because this is what my insurance is telling me, and that's not going to play into what you want to do with debris removal insurance or different types of things. So there was truly a lot of lessons learned, not only in debris removal and insurance and everything else, but ultimately in recovery. And what ultimately most people want to see is it's getting back home. Our city at the time had a lot of questions, like most communities and cities do after going through their first large-scale disastrous wildfire. We had no idea how we were going to do it. We had no idea how long it was going to take or who was going to pay for it, and who was going to be involved in it. The community had questions too. We were getting flooded pretty quickly with questions similar to what I'm sure a lot of you have asked, where it's, how can I get plans to my home that the city or county may have record of? What contractors are working in the area? What's the city or the county doing? What HOA involvement do we have? The status of permits? Just lots and lots and lots of questions. We knew that as a city, we wanted to figure out how to get to yes. We had set a pretty aggressive goal. And don't forget, back in 2017, alternate living expenses were pretty limited. They're much different today than they were back then. And we set everything in motion to basically enable somebody to be able to rebuild within 3 years. And that was our goal. Now, being very transparent, I did just that and pushed really hard to be not only a community leader, but somebody that would show how the process was going and trust the system. I was able to custom design a home, find an architect, a builder, competing against 6,000 other properties in our fire. Our fire was, as Annie said, my home burned down on October 9th of 2017, and I was rebuilt and back home by December 18th of 2018. So about a year and 2 months, and I was back with a custom home. So it is possible. I noticed the picture that May showed had hair at that point in time. I think that was somewhere between the 2017 and 2020 fires. I am convinced that fire recovery led to the shiny head that you've got on your screen right now. But I was happy to do it, happy to work with my community members, and happy to be involved in organizations like this one where we can be resources to you, whether it's in the 10 to 15 minutes that we have to quickly get through a couple slides, or to be a resource after the fact through follow-up conversations. Really, this is what we were able to get to in about 3 years. I mean, to be able to see what you saw in Coffee Park, to get to this in Coffee Park, is pretty incredible. And that's part of why our city, even though 8 years later, has been asked time and time again to be involved in community recovery around the state and around the country. Bob Fenton, who some of you may know, the Federal Region 9 coordinator for FEMA, he embedded us into Maui because he saw similarities between Lahaina and Coffee Park, and we've been working very closely, which is why I'm back here again on moving Lahaina forward. Cal OES, to their credit, for those of you that probably don't know, actually worked behind the scenes to form a memorandum of understanding, or an MOU, between the city of Santa Rosa and the state of California, which is the first time that has ever happened. Typically, Cal OES facilitates mutual aid. In this particular case, Cal OES signed a contract with Santa Rosa, and several of us were working remotely with a number of communities, whether it was LA County, LA City, our Sierra Madre, Pasadena, both at a government level and at a community level, offering support, whether it's the water agencies, whether it's the Board of Supervisors office. We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes and offering them a lot of tools and lessons learned to help them move forward. The one thing that we did, and I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible, is we knew that there was the potential for another fire to impact Santa Rosa. Obviously, the 2017 fire was something that we had could never imagine that was going to happen. We moved forward with our first community wildfire protection plan. I actually led the development of that plan. It was the first time the city had ever done a plan like that, specifically to us, as opposed to just being involved in a large scale general plan. But that plan was truly community led and inclusive of, and essentially came up with what the community wanted to see us do in the form of 46 actionable items and 9 objectives. And we have been doing that to protect and prevent the potential of another fire. Unfortunately, we approved that plan in August of 2020, and in September of 2020, the glass fire burned into the city. We have now 3 different burn scars in the city, and a change of our ecology, which you can see, where we have streets that are lined with dead trees. We've got invasive growth where areas used to be oak trees and grass woodlands. And we saw also, although we did a very good job in 2020 with how we responded, we were really subjected to property owners, landscaping, and issues with rebuilding and new homes in our community. Ultimately, we decided to take what was learned not only in 17, but in this, what you see here is 2020, where defensible space, ignition-free zone really wasn't being taken seriously in our community and was leading to destruction. And ultimately, we came out with a hazardous vegetation and fuels management ordinance. And so now, typically, what a lot of residents are used to is seeing defensible space requirements in either what is referred to as state high or very high fire hazard severity zones. We've developed what we refer to as our wildland urban interface fire area, which goes well outside of that and now requires defensible space within all 9,000 parcels, which is about a third of our city. We're requiring removal of dead trees, a lot of different rules and regulations that we have that our city, our community wanted us to do to make our community better prepared. But we also went a little bit further, and we've adopted code language that requires new construction to have ignition-free zones within the first 5 feet around homes, because that's truly what we saw happening in the 2017 and 2020 fires in parts of our community, but also take it a little bit further, and we've required the removal on all homes in our wildland interface that have that stringy hair fibrous mulch, because that truly, or commonly referred to as gorilla hair mulch, because that was truly what was leading to a lot of ignitions, a lot of ember casts, that was leading to a lot of just not only destruction of homes, but tying up unnecessary resources, where we were tying up dozens of engines, lots of strike teams of fire engines to put out mulch fires around properties, which is keeping them from doing other important tasks. We're committed to obviously building back. Not only are we committed, but we're helping other communities build back better, safer, helping move forward with FireWise communities, defensible space, ignition-free zones, everything to ultimately make our community safer. And again, see, I did used to have hair, so clearly I was starting to lose it around 2018. And I wanted to actually play this quick video. And I know that fire can obviously be traumatic in some cases, but this is an example that I took video of in 2020 during the glass fire. And I want to highlight here is there's 2 things that are really going to happen. One is you're going to have fire and you're going to have lots of resources actively engaged. But ultimately, the goal is to have a home set up so that you don't need the engines to be there. And so you want your home to be able to withstand the fire without having to have resources like you'll see here moving into a neighborhood when we have them available to us. But instead, what you'll see now is on the other side of this fire, an area where we didn't have engines and we had embers raining down onto homes, but we had entire communities and HOAs that had taken the measures had become a FireWise community that had done their ignition-free zones. And I could physically stand there and watch, as you're watching on the screen, those embers rain down on the homes. and they had nothing to ignite, and the fire literally put itself out, and the crews were able to just come in and mop up the hot spots. And that's ultimately what we hope to see more of, and what we're committed to doing within our community, to making neighborhoods and homes more fire wise and wildfire ready. It's 2:30, and I promised May that I would not go longer than 15 minutes. And I talk really fast and a lot, so I will stop here and let some of the other speakers that we have go.
Thank you so much, Paul. No, this is really, really helpful. And I also will absolutely invite everybody back again so we can learn more about it. I mean, I'm jotting down a bunch of notes, but I know you have to switch phones. So we'll ask you these questions afterwards. All right. Thanks, Paul. Next, we have Bill. Bill is from Fire Safe Marin. And this is a state-sponsored program, correct, Bill? But I'll let you explain the whole thing.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and kick this off. So my name is Bill Tyler. I'm the retired fire chief from the Novato Fire District. It's in Marin County, which is just north of the Golden Gate Bridge. We're the last fire district before you get into Sonoma County. And I want to just start with the premise. We did not have the type of fires in our communities that you all have experienced, or that Sonoma County, Napa, Butte, all the other counties have experienced. And so what we thought was important, though, because we have the same sort of, we have the very same, let me show you these pictures here. We have the very same topography on a built environment that is at risk from wildfire. And so we're trying to take some concrete steps based on what was happening to everyone else, because we're starting with this premise that wildfires are bigger. We know they're burning longer, they're causing more damage and killing more people than ever before. And that's our why behind everything that we're trying to do and what we've built. We just learned about the Tubbs fire a little bit from both Paul and Annie. And I just want to show you, after the fires are extinguished, there's always a footprint. There's a fire perimeter that's left behind, and these are mapped following the fires. And the red line is the Hanley fire in 1964, and you can see where that fire burned. And then the black line is the Tubbs fire in 2017. So what's significant about this is that the slope, the fuel, the topography, and the wind and the weather are all there to cause this fire to repeat. And so the footprint of the fire that occurred in 1964, and that took several days to burn. There were not the same amount of fire resources available to help extinguish that fire, but that took several days, something like 3 or 4 days to burn that footprint that you see in the red. In the Tubbs fire, the fire burned from Tubbs Road in Calistoga all the way to and through Coffee Park in about 4.5 hours. And it was driven by the high winds that you've experienced and will experience again. But my point in showing this slide is that this fire will occur again. And the difference is going to be what your community does, how it rebuilds, the type of ignition-resistant construction, the defensible space, all of that, the alerting, the notification, all of that will either change the outcome or will repeat itself as a result. So Marin has a long history of fires, the same sort of footprints throughout, and we believe that fire is going to repeat itself. And these are just a couple of images of the fire. This one in 1923 was the same fire that burned in the Oakland Hills. The Oakland Hills fire burned twice, once in 1923 on the same day we had our fire. But these are historic fires in Marin County. The 1923 fire that I'm talking about was 40,000 acres. So basically the Palisades and the Palisades fire, along with your other fires, added up to just slightly over 50,000 acres. So we had one of those fires in a single burning there, and you can see if that structure burned today, it would be about 5,358 structures, total of $4.9 billion. We had the Great Mill Valley fire in 29. We had the Mill fire in 45. We had the Vision fire in 1995. And so we have these same footprints. If you look at the perimeters, and these are fires that are laid over Marin County that are of greater 500 acres or greater, and you can see it essentially covers our entire footprint. And so when you back up and you start looking about the changes and the things that we had to do to try and bring us to this moment of prevention and mitigation, it's been a long haul. Going back to 1991 with the Oakland Hills fire, that's when Fire Safe Marin was actually formed, and we're a fire safe council. There's a lot of councils up and down California. We were one of the very first councils. And we decided as fire agencies that we didn't want this to happen. Again, we wanted to take concrete steps to try and prevent this kind of problem. In 1995 was the Vision fire out in West Marin. A lot of the fire agencies started to get different types of equipment, be able to deal with wildland fires in a way that we hadn't before, participated in mutual aid in much greater numbers. Then in 2003 was the Cedar Fire in San Diego. That was the largest fire in California's history at the time. Then incoming Governor Schwarzenegger commissioned a Blue Ribbon Commission report to try and look at all aspects because they did not want that to occur. Again, we lost one of our firefighters, Stephen Rucker. He was a Novato firefighter. And we made a commitment on behalf of the community that we were going to do everything we could. In that Blue Ribbon Commission report, it talked a lot about the need for increased ordinances and requirements in the built environment. We have over 11,000 parcels that are in the wildland urban interface, and most of those were all built in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So it was not ignition resistant construction. And so we are built to burn. And so we need to try and have rules and regulations and implement those over time that will help protect the community so that we don't have that same negative outcome. In 2005, we had our first wildland urban interface adopted ordinance, which defined where our wildland urban interface areas were, and we put in there requirements that when we have substantial remodels in homes that they have to be built to a higher level of standard. So this gets at the built environment. So it's not just new construction, which is what mostly the California fire codes are all about. We had, just to speed this up a bit, we started Firewise in 2009. We had detection cameras on our mountaintops in 2014. We have 9 now for early notification. We had adopted a community wildfire protection plan that drives most of our actions. And we had to have evacuation plans in order. And then out of the 2017 Tubbs fire, that's when we came together as a community. We updated our community wildfire protection plan. We did a lessons learned report where we got a hold of all the folks up in Santa Rosa. We asked them what worked, what didn't work. We did a gap analysis for what we had left. And then we came up with a number of contingencies and things that we needed to get working on. At the same time, the grand jury, which is very active up here in Marin County, that sort of takes a look at what government's doing, made the determination that we were working separately, competing with each other in silos, and we needed to all work together. And their recommendation was to form a joint powers authority where all 17 cities and towns would work together, would share resources, and they knew that we had to have funds to be able to enact the type of vegetation management to help incentivize the rebuild for ignition resistant construction, to help with evacuation notification, to do vegetation management, to inspect all buildings. And so they recommended to do a sales tax and to form this JPA. We eventually did form the JPA under a property tax model. We now have $20 million a year over 10 years, $200 million that we don't have to compete for grants and other things. We can apply that directly to the built environment to try and change it so that we can become more resilient, more fire adaptive. And this is just a quick digital guide that we had that kind of just explains what it is, so you can kind of see this in pictures. Can you see the pages flipping? You cannot?
No.
Okay. Let me see if I can do this here. Can you see the pages flipping now?
Yes.
Okay. So just in a nutshell, we do vegetation management, creation of shaded field breaks, evacuation clearance. We partnered with our environmentally, ecologically sound practices through our environmental partners, all working together, not fighting us. You can see before and after pictures of clearances so we can get our equipment in and out. There's home evaluations. We're looking at each home that's built. We're recommending hardening those homes through ignition resistant construction. We've got grants that are available up to $2,000 that they can use as matching to change their vents, their decks, their eaves, their windows, their decks. All of these things need to be done, especially when you have a built environment. All of the agencies that are working together for this. Then there's the public education and outreach, which is really the arm that Fire Safe Marin plays of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority. So again, as a trusted partner with Chipper Day programs to take out thousands and thousands of cubic yards of material, the grant program. And you can see this is a partnership, all the different cities and towns, fire agencies, along with the 260,000 Marin residents. That is what Marin Wildfire actually is all about. So when you think about this, this is kind of what was stood up, these 4 different partners. So you've got Fire Safe Marin. Again, we're the educational arm that works on those core areas. And then you've got the JPA itself with the funding through Measure C for 10 years, doing core projects, grants, chippers, home evaluations. Then you've got all of the agencies themselves that are the emergency management. They're the ones that have the local policies and ordinances that are more restrictive. They do DSpace inspections and are part of the community. And then our Firewise, we've got 81 now neighborhoods that have formed around. These are neighborhoods that are taking these lessons to heart and are the force behind change in our communities. And again, I'm gonna give this to May. She can send it out so you can take time and kind of look at it more closely. But just the breakdown of what Fire Safe Marin does in conjunction with the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority and then the other agencies, and how we cross communicate, how we all have guiding documents that work together, the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. We all have boards of directors that work together. And so it is possible to establish government agencies working, public, private, nonprofit partnerships to help protect the community. And then a little more just about Fire Safe Marin. We are a Fire Safe Council established back after the tunnel fire, so in '92. Our mission really is to empower residents to prepare for wildfire. We've got 12 different programmatic areas. Our website is a wealth of information. I'd invite you to take a look, firesafemarin.org. We've got over 42 different partnerships with different groups in the community. We have all types of events that we go and do tabling at. Over 20,000 engagements every year in Marin County. Our outreach, by the numbers, we basically 5 million impressions that we have. 325,000 web pages have been viewed, video content, 24,000 hours, 500 social media posts, and that's a year. And then we've got our educational materials at point of sale, these kiosks in different home building centers, landscapes, you name it. I think I shared this Fire Smart Yards guide earlier with May. Is that correct, May? And you push that out to everybody. So I don't necessarily have to go through that. I do want you to see that there's other documents like this where we encourage people about what they can do. So making their changes to their home, maintaining their yards, being ready to evacuate. This is the expectation that we've set within our own communities, that they're going to have to live with wildfire. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon. We can do these things together by creating this Zone Zero ember resistant home. It's not about looking over at our neighbors and seeing what they're doing or not doing. It's what we need to be doing in our own communities, how much the yard matters, joining Firewise neighborhoods, participating in Ember Stomp, which is a big festival that we have, being ready to evacuate by signing up for alerts and warnings, and then all of the agencies, again, working together. So just all these different ways that we reach our communities. Lots of videos. Again, you can go check out all these things online. We've won awards for these. Making it downhill alive was important. Could it happen here? That was following the fires that you had down in Southern California. All the different social media pieces, all of these are available to you. You can use these, you can download these, share them with your community, public service announcements, both in English and in Spanish. We're in the schools with the Get Ready 5th grade, talking to all of the kids that are out there, because it really takes the whole community. Again, 260,000 people, 81 fire sites, which represent about 60,000 residents, that put in 207,000 hours a year. And this is $12.6 million is what the Firewise community reinvests back into their communities. So we help coordinate them, 12 meetings a year. We get about 60 people at each meeting. And what's interesting about the Firewise community, we track the amount of volume of vegetation that gets removed from areas. We track the number of assessments that are done. And in a Firewise community, you're 30% more likely to have them recognize hazards and remove those. There's 3 3.5 times more likely resolved issues in those assessments that are done. And we ask every Firewise community to build a contact list, to go on neighborhood walks, to hold evacuation drills, to work with their local fire departments, to share this wildfire public education materials, and to promote their chipper days. And then a big festival that we just have every year. It just ended just last week. Terrific opportunity to put both public and private partnerships together with our master gardeners. We have burn demos, all the kinds of things to help celebrate resilience and fire adaptive communities. So that's it for me. That's my 15 minutes, and I'll pass it back to May.
That was very impressive, Bill. I hope to grow up to be a fire safe community one day. That's my big goal. Okay, so the next we have Tyler. Tyler is a Palisadian who also lost his home. I just want to warn everybody, there may be some images and videos of the Palisades fire. So if you guys want to turn off your video, please go ahead, and I'll have Tyler take it away. Thanks, Tyler.
Cool. Thanks, May. All right, so let me get my screen up. Let's see here. There we are. All right, is everyone seeing that?
Yes, you're
All right,
starting
cool.
to share.
There we go. Well, honored to be here today and talk about the community brigade that we started. Basically, it's a partnership between the Los Angeles Emergency Preparedness Foundation, LA County Fire Department, and the LA Board of Supervisors. It's kind of a groundbreaking new foray into starting brigades inside of communities. And our mission statement is to empower communities to prepare for, support during, and recover from wildfires and other disasters, not just wildfire, but all disasters. This is what our team currently looks like. It's our first academy, about 45 people that are field operators, and we have another 15 that do logistic work. Our approach to solving this wildfire problem is to tap into community leaders and help lead a new cultural mindset change for people living in these high risk areas to become more resilient. So let's go into more details about the brigade. It consists of seven pilot communities in Malibu. Malibu West, County Line, Point Doom, Corral Canyon, Big Rock, Topanga Canyon, and Hidden Hills. Our motto is shared risk, shared responsibility, shared outcome. This map down below is exactly what Bill was showing up in Marin, but in Malibu, it's kind of considered the Super Bowl of wildfire. And you could see how this landscape, every single color is a fire burn perimeter, and you could see how many times it's burned over the last, I think, 100 years, and how we need to prepare again for another one because it's kind of inevitable. So some of the volunteers here, just to kind of give you the gist of our program. We have people like Angela here, who was a former wildland firefighter, parts of like a hand crew. We have Harley Davidson executive James Dagonis at Living Up Topanga, part of the brigade. We have somebody like Andrew Cooper living up Topanga, Superior Court judge, 20 years being a sheriff. Gabe here on Point Doom, former Army combat medic. Martin Gallen, Marty worked at HRL. He worked in clean room environments. Jeff Stoltz is an actor who played a firefighter on Only the Brave. We have people like Kate Buckwold, who lives up Topanga Canyon. She knows everybody up there. Has been a really great leader in that community. And then people like Jeff Spiegel, living in Paradise Cove. It's a great skateboarder and local building contractor. I love these guys. Some of the best people I've ever met here. So getting more into the details about what we do during, or I guess for the whole program, pre-incident, we created a home hardening program following the home ignition zone principles. And just to back it up a little bit, when we first started this idea for a brigade, the whole North Star of it's been always been how do we prevent homes from burning down and what are the best ways to do that? And after forming the brigade and learning about suppression techniques and getting trained to firefighter 2 levels or higher, we learned we could only do so much during a wildfire. Even with our small crew, um, we could only do so much. But what we can do and be super effective on and save a lot of homes is by doing home hardening and educating the residents. And that's what we've really been focusing on. It's about half and half brigade, the other half preparedness side. During an incident, uh, basically the overall goal is to work with LA County Fire to achieve incident objectives. We liaison with IC. We do evacuation support, and firefront following is basically support for ember and spot fires. Um, I think probably during the Palisades fire, the most important thing we did was evacuation. We know we saved, uh, I mean, a lot of lives doing that, just that, getting people. A lot of people weren't even aware there was a fire or notified there was a fire. There's a lot of people that were stubborn, didn't want to get out or leave, and being, you know, on a first name basis with a lot of these people, we were able to really get them to consider evacuating and actually evacuate because we see them every day, we know who they are, and we're telling them the risk and they believe us. Post this incident, we really focus on community healing, logistics supports, and we're part of the whole recovery process the whole time. So that's kind of like the core functions of the brigade. So what we have achieved so far, one of the biggest accomplishments that we got was actually getting this sanctioned by the LA Board of County Supervisors and LA County Fire Department. Getting that approval was huge for us, and it's a groundbreaking new type of foray into starting brigades inside of this community. We have 45 trained and equipped volunteers. We've had so far deployed into 3 different fires: the Broad Fire, Franklin Fire, and the Palisades Fire. Another big accomplishment is that we've assessed over 400 homes, and we got an accommodation scroll from the LA Board of County Supervisors for support during the Franklin Fire and Palisades Fire. We got 250 more volunteers eager to join, and we're trying to figure out ways to scale this and expand it. Our plans for 2025 and 2026, we want to get 2 more 40-person academies going. We want to build out a toolkit that kind of will allow us, it's like the blueprint to scale to different communities. And we just want to increase our support resources and equipment to do the job safely. This slide here is the beginning of the slides. May was kind of warning everybody about if images of the Palisades fire from the Palisades might be triggering. This is photos of my personal house, lived on Radcliffe Avenue. I was super prepared for a wildfire. I knew eventually something was going to happen one day. I was the crazy neighbor with the Type 6 fire engine in the driveway. And just my personal story is part of the reason why I was asked to be a panelist today. And I'll just go through it real quick. During the fire, it was intense winds, lots of smoke and embers being cast all around my specific block and neighborhood. And that's what we focused on the whole time, which is putting out spot fires all around the community, all around the neighborhood and homes and everywhere we could, see smoke, we put water on it, basically. We thought around like 10 o'clock at night, we thought we actually pulled it off. And we were feeling pretty good about, getting through this fire. But around midnight, a home that was just directly outside of our hose lay caught fire. The back deck caught on fire and eventually engulfed the whole house. And it was upwind, and it was 5 houses upwind from my house. And as soon as that house caught fire, it started to domino towards my house, and there was no way to slow it down with 50 to 60-mile-an-hour winds blowing, direct flame onto the next house. And so got to a point where I just really couldn't do anymore, and we had to clear out of there. And so that was my personal story, but the next couple of slides are going to show what the brigade was doing in different parts of the neighborhood, in the Palisades, in Malibu. And it's going to give, the reason why I wanted to show these slides, it's going to give people mental slides of what catches fire, what's burning down homes, and how embers are just spreading the fire throughout the community. So get ready. So very common thing to happen is for outdoor furniture to catch on fire. And this person had outdoor storage and like a wooden fence that caught on fire, and had a chance to wick towards the house, and so we jumped on that as quickly as possible. This is a great example. Everyone has thistle doormats, and embers just love to land on it and fester and ignite. And where are doormats usually stored? Right next to your wood frame door. And that's a very common way for homes to burn down. Just something that simple. There's so many single points of failure during a wildfire to consume a house. And that's why it's so important to do everything you can with the home hardening. This slide here basically is showing how outdoor furniture and stuff wasn't hot enough to crack this window. And glass just does not like to experience that type of heat. Windows crack all the time at any time it sees, direct flame impingement. And it's a very common way for homes to get lost. As soon as the window's out, it gives a direct path for embers to ignite whatever's inside. So that's what this slide's about. You can see it's right next to a barbecue, and it has some, all types of stuff that people leave next to their house. So it's a really important one for people to understand. The outdoor stuff could really spell trouble for your house during a wildfire. This clip is just showing how a really small hedge could ignite. The fire is not even around this location, but it's just embers being cast into the neighborhood and starting small fires like this. And, just kind of landing in vulnerable spots around people's homes. And it's really important to have non-ignitable stuff around the house that could just cause problems. And as soon as something ignites, it's, carrying embers to other locations that start other fires. So it really is a compounding effect and exponential growth. It's another clip of a hedge catching on fire. You can see the conditions are pretty hairy. Palm trees on fire. But yeah, lots of hedges will catch on fire if they are not properly maintained and healthy and green. And if there isn't anywhere for the debris to go, like the dead leaves, they just land at the base of these hedges and ignite the whole hedge. So if this hedge is connected to your house or gets near your house, it really spells danger for the house. This is another clip here. It was actually on my street, and you could see how as the fire was approaching, just actually smoke was starting to come over. Embers were landing in these vulnerable spots like a palm tree here. And this palm tree was just launching embers kind of like everywhere around the neighborhood. You see a small fire over here in the hedge, and then on the sidewalk here. And I mean, that's what we were really trying to clean up the whole time. So yeah, here's the next clip. Nothing against palm trees, but during a wildfire, they're pretty hazardous. Catch fire so easily, and then you could just see how many embers just get blown out from it, and they just carry the fire everywhere. Another palm tree, if a palm tree is not like completely lollipopped and you see dead like palms hanging down from it, those things will ignite very easily and they will get dislodged from the tree, and those like those palms on fire will fly for miles and land, wherever, and start another ignition. And that's what really makes fire kind of hard to control. Um, you could see that here, there's another small ignition here on the hedge that we were trying to get to. Another palm tree example, this is on PCH. All these embers that are kind of raining down are really coming from this palm tree at the top right, and they are big, very hot embers landing everywhere and igniting homes essentially. And that's what we were really trying to battle. It's just embers. So it's really important to harden your home from embers. So the key takeaways that from the Palisades fire is that without better community engagement, acknowledged acceptance of the risk and responsibility of living in these areas, agencies will continue to fight impossible battles and have unfair expectations during these extreme events. LA County Fire is like one of the best firefighting, wildland firefighting units or agencies on the planet. Worldwide, they are looked to for strategies, equipment, and tactics to control wildfires. They're the best equipped, great, like most experienced, well funded, and 99% of the time they put out the fire. It's the 1% of the time where a fire could get out of control, and we have these types of, and during those right conditions, we'll have these fires that get out of control that are really hard to contain. So what, as a homeowner, do you do in this case? You must be able to construct your home or have your home stand alone during a wildfire. That's the absolute best way to give yourself the assurance that your home could survive a wildfire, because you cannot assume firefighters will be at your house. That's a hard lesson to learn right there for a lot of people, but you cannot assume firefighter will be at your house. During the Woolsey fire, I think the number was one fire engine for 77 homes in the burn perimeter. So not great odds. Do not assume that water is going to be available. Do not assume power is going to be available. And do not assume that you're even going to be home. Just be red flag ready, have a plan, clear your space, stay proactive. Preparation saves homes. Preparation is a collective effort, shared risk, shared responsibility, shared outcome. Again, the more resilient your home is, the safer your neighbors are going to be, and vice versa. This is my opinion here. Current codes for close setback neighborhoods should be re-examined for conflagration conditions. Home-to-home ignition will occur under the current codes. Some examples, my own personal observations, that no eaves on sides adjacent to neighboring homes should be made. Fireproof shutters for windows and frames facing the neighbors' homes. Non-ignitable fencing to act as a fire barrier between homes for really close setback homes. Shared vegetation between homes must be rigorously maintained. And a closing thought is, if you build a home in Antarctica, you wouldn't use poor insulation. The same principle applies in wildfire-prone areas that have burned for centuries. Build for the environment you live in. And I
Thank
think
you,
I'm over my
Tyler.
time.
Thank you, Tyler. You should be
Yeah.
on the next webinar. That's because IBHS is going to be on the next webinar. So we'll definitely
Oh,
get
cool.
into the weeds of that. All right, we'll take some raised hands if anybody wants to raise their hands, but we have some pre-submitted questions and I have a ton of questions too. So a couple pre-submitted questions while we're waiting to see if anybody have any questions is that one person asked if how long did it take for the community to be rebuilt, and such as when do we get supermarkets alive? This person suggests 7 to 10 years, but I think Paul could answer that pretty quickly.
Okay, thanks, May. A lot of it's going to depend on obviously the property owner's desire to build back and or change their uses. So we were pretty uh, good with homes, especially outside of the wildland interface, came back pretty quickly. Homes in our wildland, we had a lot of property sell off because a lot of people were not able to deal with the difference in insurance needed to conform with current standards, not only for hillside, but seismic as well as wildland interface. So our hillside community still 8 years later has a lot of construction taking place. What we actually saw when it comes to our commercial was a drastic change. Where we had hotels, they are now high density apartments. Where we had a mobile home park, it's now senior housing. Our commercial shopping center has not come back. It was actually bought out by an Indian health organization. So there are some changes, but on the flip side, other things that were easy to come back, whether it was Taco Bell and McDonald's, a gas station, a lot of those did come back relatively quickly.
Oh, well, that's hopeful at least. Another question, hillside clearance. When nearby hillsides are privately owned, how do you get neighbors to clear them in a timely manner? I guess either Paul or Bill could take this question. Or Annie, anybody?
Sorry, can you repeat that, May?
Yeah, this question is about hillside clearances, because when nearby hillsides are privately owned, how do you get the neighbors to clear the hillsides in a timely manner?
Are you talking about debris or vegetation?
It sounds like it's vegetation.
So a lot of that's going to depend on what system the fire jurisdiction that you're in has. So like for us, we have inspection processes that take place, and oftentimes it can only happen as quickly as the enforcement program that they have in place, and the number of inspections that the property owners do to get. As much as fire officials like us would love to just go in and clear things out on our own, there is a process that we have to go through before we can force abatement on them.
And then the next question is about.
I would just add
Okay.
to that, May, it's possible for communities to, if they can put funding aside, whether they do it through grants or they create, a fund of money that they can use. We've implemented shaded fuel breaks around the perimeters of our communities that are, the intent of that is if a fire comes, and this doesn't deal directly with brands and embers. This is when a fire comes in through the area. The idea is if you clear out dead and down, if you clear vegetation back 300 feet from people's property lines, that the flame spread, the height of the flames and the flame spread, how quickly it moves will slow down. It's like a speed bump to a fire that's coming into a community. It gives an opportunity for fire agencies to get in there and put it out. So there are good models and templates for shaded fuel break work to be done in cooperation with your fire department. But the other thing I just want to make sure is clear is that a lot of people want to stand and look out into the open spaces and say that's where our problem is, and you really need to turn around and look at your house from the house out and protect that portion that you have control over. So do everything that you possibly can to harden the home, to reduce the vegetation within your defensible space. So that is something you can do right away, that you can apply your funds to, and then work with your neighbors, work with your community partners, work with the property owners, because they really want to have that stuff cleared out too. but it's not going to make any difference if you don't clear out the stuff and work on your own property.
That's very clear. Now, Reza has a question online that asks, does the county and state clear the brushes in the public lands? Because that does not happen around the Palisades. I think, I guess that question is more towards you guys. Does the state clear the brushes in the public lands in your area?
So we get that question a lot, and Bill may have follow up to it, but that we heard that loud and clear from a lot of residents, whether it was open space that's owned by an HOA, whether it's a county park, whether it's a city park, whether it's a state park, and it's not a popular answer, but the reality of it is, and I think that's maybe a little bit where Bill was going. Those are natural, unmaintained, in some cases, lands, and although oftentimes the state will offer permits that will allow an adjacent property owner the ability to do work within their defensible space or along the goal, along the property lines. Oftentimes they are truly unmanaged in some cases, but we have seen state parks and other jurisdictions put together projects where they are doing work, but the level of manicuring that I think I've seen communities expect. Unfortunately, I don't see it in my area as being realistic. And it really highlights the importance, again, of what Bill was saying, is to really do your part on your property to protect your home. And oftentimes I get people pointing their finger at the state park, thinking that's the risk to them, when the reality of it is a lot of our homes in the wildland, because a majority of our homes are human caused, are actually the threat to the state park. And we try and make sure that they're doing things on their own properties to prevent their homes from spreading to others or into that park and putting the greater community at risk.
I could add to that for the Palisades area, because I know it's a hot topic of discussion. The state and local fire departments have been trying to do prescribed burning in Topanga State Park for years. But there's been massive resistance from the local community to do that, especially in Topanga. They love their trees, and they love their hillsides and what it looks like, and there's big resistance to doing any type of prescribed burn. I don't know if things have changed recently, but leading up to this fire, it's been really hard to do any type of brush clearance around the state park in Topanga.
Thank you, Tyler. The next question, I think it might be an Annie question. Did insurance come back? And if so, is it anywhere near affordable? Does the insurance covered wildfires, or most of you have to self-insure beyond small coverage from insurance?
So this isn't a good question for me in the sense of a comparison. Coffee Park has no problems getting insurance. We are not high risk. Why we weren't raised up to be after the fire is kind of beyond me. I don't want to say that too loud because I don't want anybody to change it. But obviously insurance becomes more problematic after a fire in most places. And so that's why it's imperative that everybody do everything they can to rebuild back with home hardening in mind, so that the insurance companies can come out and take a look at it and see that you're complying with the things that they're asking you to, so that you can get insurance. We don't want everybody on the California Fair Plan, and the California Fair Plan has limitations of, that their limit is $3 million, period. That's contents, structure, other dwellings, other structures, whatever it is, that's $3 million. And with the price that we're seeing for rebuilding in these areas, that's not going to go that far for very long. And the price is going to climb.
And what I've seen is that a lot of these homes are going to have to build back into current standards. So they'll be covered on that side of things. But I've seen a lot of insurance companies make some pretty significant requests of the vegetation that's either been planted after the building has been signed off, or existing vegetation on the property has to be removed, trees limbed up, and or in many cases, I've seen some pretty significant demands from insurance companies to remove a lot of trees from properties in order to maintain their coverage.
It's interesting. Next one, I think Bill actually has answered this. Are there fire-wise strategies specific to mobile homes? I believe you have a website that I could share.
Yeah,
Is there
yeah,
any
and
other
so
comments?
I somehow I got an email. Someone sent me an email on this, and I forwarded back specific. There's a specific on our website, firesafemarin.org. You just go there and put up mobile home or manufactured home, and stuff will come up there. As what fire agencies have to do is if they want to affect change in a mobile home park over time, is that they have to have an ordinance that requires home hardening, so that when that manufactured home gets replaced, the new one that comes on can be built to ignition resistant construction requirements. So they do make them. They make them, but part of the problem generally in a mobile home park is that there's no separation. I mean, they're so close to each other that you get one going and you're going to get the other. Especially people want screening in between those when it's so tight. But there are some strategies in there, and you can get manufactured homes that meet the Chapter 7A for ignition resistant construction. Believe it or not, they're out there.
Okay, I think there's one more, there's a couple questions on the Q&A, and also there's one more question on the previously asked questions. How can people with small lots do to protect the size of our homes if a house within just feet of us is burning unchecked, to actually block the heat from igniting something beyond the fireproof outer materials? I guess, well, I'll have you guys answer that one if you understand.
Yeah, I mean, this is the question of setbacks that's being tested. What's a safe distance? And you really need like 30 feet or something so that the radiant heat won't break windows out and won't start igniting siding, etc. But a lot of it has to do is which way is the wind blowing, how long is the flame impinging, how long is the heat impinging. It's the homes are going to be built because the developers want to get as many homes as they possibly can on a square footage. They want the narrowest roads possible, and they want livable, walkable communities. And what happens is then you don't have good access for fire equipment. The homes are built really close together, and then you have this fire problem. And so this is a question for planners in future areas about how they build their communities. But I think that another way to look at this, that some of the thinking is if you've got homes that are built to these standards with the proper plantings, etc., that they actually become like a fuel break to the rest of the community. So what some of the stuff that I've been hearing from the insurance companies and the actuaries is that if, let's say you take 100 homes that back up to open space, if just 30% of those homes make the changes, the home hardening and the defensible space, that 30% becomes actuarially significant in terms of a savings. That goes all the way up to about 80%. After that, it doesn't matter one way or the other. And they're looking at homes built back as barriers, as protective measures. And so that is another way to sort of look at that. And getting fire agencies to get the shaded fuel breaks in. You can only do what you can do, right? And then the rest is what's going to happen. And we know the fires are going to come back. So let's do what you can, before that incident happens. And I think that's the best that we can do individually. Then as a community with our neighbors, we want the communities to thrive and to exist. And so that means we're going to have to build them back differently.
That's definitely true, Bill.
But I'd like to add to this, May, real quick. Something we discussed with you guys earlier was that there are a lot of new products out there to build your home. And just understand that there's limitations to all of that as being a fire survivor. you know, your loss of use is only going to pay up to 36 months. You need to make sure that you vet that builder, that you know whether they have competent contractors to build that. We had many go up in Sonoma County where builders who didn't know how to utilize the product plan check, who did not know how to check it, inspectors. And so the process became, instead of a 2 to 3 year recovery for most of them, it became a 5 to 6 year. We have one guy who's at the 8 year mark or
Wow.
7 year mark, and he can't get his home completed. So I just want to put that caveat in there that don't just run out and think, I'm going to find a new way to build and I'm going to be good then. You know,
Right.
windows are a huge component, and doors of our windows in Coffee Park melted. And that is a point of entry. If they can't tell you what happens when that happens, what happens to the interior of the home, what happens to all the where all the toxins go and how you can possibly clean it. I mean, you have to do a pretty deep dive into some of these.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And also you have to also vet your architects too. Your
Yeah.
architect is also an important part of understanding what fire resiliency is and what kind of details they provide. I do have one last question for Tyler. Tyler, could anybody be in the Citizens Brigade, or I mean, is there age limit, physical
No,
limitation?
currently, we interview everybody. They're all well vetted. They go through a background check, live scan. Um, we interview them with local station chiefs to get an idea of who they are, ask them hard questions. They have to pass pack tests, which is basically you're carrying 30 pounds and you have to walk uh, 2 miles inside of a certain time. So those are the requirements for field operations, but there's a lot of opportunity for support and logistic work, which doesn't require physical abilities. And it really just comes down to your background, what you could bring to the table, and how much time you could dedicate to this, because it is a pretty time intensive volunteer organization. And you really need, if there's going to be trainings, you really have to be out all the trainings. So there's a lot of conflicting time schedules for a lot of people that couldn't make or couldn't actually join on the first academy because just, conflicting schedules on training. So it really, there is, it's a, anyone could join, but you have to get through the interview process. You have to go through the live scan. You have to do a lot of different things to be vetted and become part of it.
Okay, we have one question. I'm gonna try to take this question online. We're coming about to 6:30. We're way longer than we had anticipated. So let's take, Raphael, do you want to speak? Can you unmute yourself, Raphael? Okay, all right. Raphael, do you want to speak? Raphael Gervis? You have your hand raised. All right, we'll take this other one online. So Carolyn had a question. What building materials do you recommend? Annie, do you have a answer to that, or just their hour rating, I guess, the ICC number?
So for me personally, I really feel like it's much more about building to today's codes and factoring in the standards. I think it's the challenges of, I don't have any product that I would say, gosh, if my house burnt again, that's what I would use, because I can see what the challenges are and the issues. Now, as we move along and they do more testing and things happen, the rule of thumb is the builder who's built the most homes is going to have the least amount of problems. So when you're talking about new product for builds, it becomes problematic if they've only built 10 homes, 30 homes max. How many contractors did they use on that? Who actually has the experience? So when I built my home back, I just did it to today's standards. My house came back very quickly. And then as the IBHS standards came out, I modified it to reflect on all those things.
Okay, I think Raphael got himself unmuted now. So do you want to ask your question? Raphael? Okay. All right. Well, if nobody else has any question, what about Carrie, Allison, and Daphne? If nobody else has a question, we're going to end this webinar. Thank you guys so much for joining today.
Someone else just put their hand up now,
Oh,
or not.
no.
I think that was a clap.
Oh.
That was like a round of
Okay.
applause. There we go.
There we go.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. As usual, we'll have the recording on our YouTube on T Palisades, and then transcript also be there. And then come join us in 2 weeks for the next webinar where we'll be talking about IBHS and all that good stuff, how to build back resiliently. Thank you again. Thank you guys so much. I really
Thank you.
This is great. Thank you.
Good luck to all of you. Please feel
Thank
free to
you.
reach out if you have any questions.
All right.
Good
Take
work,
care.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
very much.
Bye-bye.